So, first thing we're talking about today is work capacity and understanding work capacity. I'm going to pull out my notes on phone. Fitness is the ability to express work capacity, ability to do work across broad time and mold domains, right? And that's really interesting because broad time, so that can mean, a lot of the time in the context of class, that can mean a under 3 minute workout like Grace or Fran, or that could mean a 30-minute workout or 40-minute workout, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you go a little bit bigger and you go outside of class, then you bring in like running and cycling and all of that, right? But in the CrossFit context, we're usually talking about like that under 3, or even like a 1 rep max is work in a short amount of time. And all the way up to a 30-40-minute AMRAP. Right?
Like today's workout.
Yeah, or Murph, right? Murph is another long one, 45 minutes, right? Those are all different time domains. In the modal domain, the modal is just the kind of exercise. Is it weightlifting? Is it running? Is it a mix of things? A couplet, triplet, right? Different exercises. Mode always just means exercise. And so work is force times distance. It's measured in a unit called a joule. There are 4 calories in a joule, but these are calories with a little c, different than calories in a big C, a kilocalorie, which are used by the food industry. So that's why when we're doing calories on the biker rower, everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is only 100 calories, like I can't eat anything, right? But it's a different kind of calorie. So everyone thinks it's the same kind of calorie, it's not. It's not super important to remember the joules part, other than for like, if you want to know exactly how much power and get super technical, right? But you don't really need to remember that right now. It can come in handy later. So what we're going to do over the next few weeks is we're going to build on what we're learning today, and we're going to talk about how to improve aerobic capacity. But first we have to understand what work is, which work is force times distance. And so if we look at the CrossFit workout Grace, 30 clean and jerks for time and 95 pounds, which is the female RX, the work is 2,850 force pounds times the, sorry, that's a force, is 2,850 force pounds times the distance. And then the distance will be dependent on someone's height. So if you use 95 pounds, your distance, we can use your height as an approximation. It'll probably be 4 inches above your height, but for all intents and purposes, we could just use your height to simplify it, right? So how tall are you?
I'm good here today. I'd like to say 6'4", 6'5". I'll say 6'4".
Let's say 6'5", just to make it easy for me.
Okay.
Or let's say 6'6". Not actually 6'6", but that would be 6.5. That gives us a nice easy number to multiply by. So that would be 18,525 force pounds, right? That would be the distance. Force pound inches, I think, is technically what it is.
How did you get that number?
So I multiplied your height, which would be, like I said, 6'6".
Yeah.
So that's 6.5 as a decimal, times the total amount of force required to do Grace at 95 pounds. So that's 95 times 30, 2850. So 2850 times.
I forgot to finish your risk, and I'll get it
Oh.
so you can serve me right back.
Not a problem. Yeah, take your time. So 2850 times 6.5, that's 18,525 force pound inches, right?
Yeah, so I got 6.5 times, but it was 95 pounds, right?
Yeah.
617.
And sorry, before you do so 6.5 represents the distance. Before you do the distance, you have to multiply the force. So the force would be the reps times 95 pounds.
There you go. Okay, so 95 times 30.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, 2,000. Gotcha.
Yeah, so then you multiply that times 6.5 and you get 18,525. Now, let's think about me and let's pretend I'm a little shorter than I am, because I am a little shorter than I thought I was growing up. So let's say I'm 5.5 and I do that same thing, 2850 force pounds times 5.5. Then my total work is 15,675. So who has to do less work in Grace if we use the same weight, you or me?
So I was 18,525, and you were 14,000. So
15,000.
15,000. Sorry. So I'd be doing more work.
Yeah, you would be, because you're going a longer distance,
Yeah.
right? And that's why CrossFit is not favorable to taller athletes a lot of the time, because a lot of the movements outside of maybe wall balls and rowing are movements that are harder for tall people, easier for short people. I remember seeing Jason Kalupa at my level 1, and on every picture I've ever seen, he's just like this, right? In real life, it's like this. And,
Really? I thought it was
yeah, I mean, he's still buff, and like, don't get me wrong, he's strong as shit, and really fit, but I just always assumed he was like big, and I was like, whoa, he's short, right? So, yeah. So, yeah. Cool. And so now, the other thing you need to understand, so we know what work is. Work is force times distance. Now, if we do force times distance, that's the total amount of work. And an example on here, I used Emily, and she was like 14,000 force pounds. We just talked a little bit about taller athlete implications. Taller athletes are gonna have to work more most of the time. What about shorter, so yeah, I kind of said already too, but shorter athletes, like if you're 4'9", like you technically have to work less, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now, the thing we don't have in here as yet is power. So a person does have to work less because there's less distance, but power is how fast they do it. Right?
Yeah.
And they might be short and be able to do less work, but if they do it faster, there's more power, right?
What if something like running? You're not going up and down, but you're just going on that.
Straight?
Yes, straight.
There's still power, right? It's still, because, like if you and me both run a 400 meter, now it's different because we don't need to go height, but we're gonna go weight-wise, right? So if I'm like 240 and you're, how much you weigh?
210.
210, and we go 400 meters, distance, force times distance, we're gonna use our body weight as force. I don't think, so in the larger bodies thing, in some of my other studies, I remember they did that, and I don't think it's that simple, because I think you probably have to account for gravity and other things. But let's just use that, right? So let's say, so you're 210, you said?
Yeah.
So 210, let's say the distance is a mile, and we measure it in meters, so 1,600. That would be 336,000 pound meters, right? Now if we did, I think it's pound meters too, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how you did. So now if I did it, that would be 384 pound meters, so who's working harder there?
So you were 334 and
I'm 384, you were 336.
So yeah, you're working harder.
Right, because I'm heavier, right? So I'm moving more weight, so that's more force for the same distance equals more work, right? Now, what if we change the movement up and we do a wall ball where the distance is the top of the shoulders to 10 feet? And let's say I am 5'5" and you're 6'5", and the top of your shoulders is 5'5", and the top of my shoulders is 4'5". Because we'll say it's about a foot to here, right? So if I'm going up 10 feet from 5.5, then that's another 4.5 feet the ball has to travel. You're holding it here, right? Now for me, I am 4.5, so that's another 5.5. You have to travel 4.5, I have to travel 5.5. So you work less there, right?
Yeah, unless like with wall balls, we do have that standard 10 feet, but if we made the standard applicable to the person's height, it would be different.
Yeah, you could, and I think it's probably more complicated to do that for a competition, so they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
In theory, they should. I think that's why a lot of people are always complaining about. They're always complaining about the standards and the rules, and oh my gosh, this isn't fair. But I think it's just easier to do that. I don't think they want to measure out.
Yeah.
I think people get away with doing that. Yeah. So that's like that. Hi, Jamie. So we know what work is now. So then power is the next equation, right? And power is that force times distance, which is the work divided by time. So how fast we do. And so if Emily completes Grace in 2 minutes, that's 120 seconds for total power in 124.68 foot-pounds per second. So the way I got that was dividing her work, which is the 2850 times whatever height we gave her, 4'9".
2850.
Oh, sorry. So she was 5 1/4 foot tall. So that was 14,962. divided by 120 seconds. And then I went and got, so her total power is 124.68 foot-pounds per second. Alright, and then I got fancy and I did watts. I did 1 foot-pound per second is 1.35582 watts, and we multiply per foot-pounds per second, and we get 169 watts. Now, watts is a more familiar number. That's the only reason I did it. I didn't do it because I want you to find watts or anything. It's just to understand that, just to have an idea. Because like, have you ever do you have an Apple Watch or no?
No. No, I won't.
What about on the rower? Do you ever look at wattage on a rower?
Yeah.
So like.
Or on the bike, I think I looked at it on a rower before.
So it's comparable. It's different, right? Like, so running is gonna probably be less watts. I don't know exactly like which one has more watts, but that's just an idea for you to see. Like, you can calculate the wattage for a CrossFit workout, right? So, anyways.
What's a globe? Sorry.
Oh, that was the technical.
Okay, that's watts.
Yeah. So if the same amount of work is done over a longer time period, so like let's say she takes 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes, then she's gonna have less power. Because let's just say, to make it easy, let's say her total force times distance was, let's just make up a number and say it's 250, right? If we divide 250 by 2, her power would be 125.
Yeah.
If we divide 250 by 5, then our power is going to be 50, right? And so, like, does that make sense? So the the longer it takes you, the bigger a number you divide the work by, and the less total power you output.
Yeah.
And in CrossFit, we say power is synonymous with intensity. So the person who is able to get it done faster is going to output more power, more intensity, and intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of return on favorable adaptation. So basically, the harder you work, the greater you adapt. Now, that's true for the most part. The thing you should probably add in is like, you have to be able to recover from the work you do, right? So like, it's not just like, and then here's the other thing too. Here's one thing I think is misunderstood. So let's take an athlete. I'm thinking of someone in particular. I probably don't want to say their name because this is a recording that could be out there. We have an athlete who's very strong, right, and likes to lift all the time, and they want to get better aerobically and like be better at like metcons, right, and not be dying and have a high heart rate. Now, let's say we're doing a workout where the workout, let's just say we're doing heavy grace. So we're doing 30 C&J, and let's just say the work, it's 185 pounds for heavy grace for compete, and then 135, so this is our compete weight. This is like someone that can move that fast, and we have 135 pounds for health. And this guy can do 225, 250, whatever. He can do a clean and jerk at 185, no problem. However, he doesn't have great aerobic capacity, and so this is going to take him longer if he does that. So if he does health, he can finish in 4 minutes. The goal is under 5 minutes for this, right? Now let's say if he does compete, it takes him 12 minutes, right? Because he's going to sit there dying, right? Yeah, so if we did 12, let's do it, okay, and also what do I need to do? A distance. So let's say he is 5 foot tall in both. So 185 times 5 gives you 925 force pound inches, right? That's not how you write that, but whatever. And then 135 times 5 is 675. And we also should multiply that by 30, right? So we can keep it small and just do it this way instead of having a bunch of zeros. So 925 units of work, 675 units of work. Now, we're going to go ahead and divide this. So if we did 925 divided by 12, we get 77 units of power. And if we did 675 divided by 4, we get 168.7 units of power. So even though he's like a big guy who likes to lift heavy weights, and he's like, I can lift heavy weights, this one allows him to express more power, right? Because it's not about going slow, it's about going quickly in that workout, because we're asking you to finish under 5 minutes. This one is way over the time cap. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So, yeah, that's why sometimes it's important to steer our people towards doing a lighter weight if they're going to get stuck looking at the bar.
Yeah.
And that's why the person who's just coming in, who isn't very strong, needs to do like an empty bar, right? Sometimes. Yeah, I think that's it on that.
Yeah, I remember, I believe we went over that in the level 1 class, the force and the,
Oh yeah?
yeah, I'm pretty sure we
That's
did force and distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming back to me, not the example with Emily in there, obviously, but you remember a lot of the verbiage and stuff.
Cool. So let's talk about the muscle up now.
Is that gonna be part of our next cycle coming up?
Yeah, it is, but it's gonna be like, so that's the thing, right? Is every cycle for every day there's a goal, and the main level is health. And then we also have compete and base. The reason the main level is health is because that's where most of our members fall. That's what they're here for, goal-wise, right? They're not here to compete. And some are just starting out. So that's like the main level, but we also have these levels because there are people that can express more. Where do you think a muscle up lies on this like level?
Oh, it's been compete for
Yeah,
a while.
Yeah, and
Well,
it's not saying that someone who's here for health shouldn't pursue a muscle up, because in CrossFit, do you know why we believe people should pursue higher skills?
Should always be striving for more. Should always try
Well,
to push
why?
it.
What's the health benefit?
Yeah, you're getting out of that comfort zone and you're attempting something. I mean, just if you stay stationary and do the same thing over and over, you don't grow.
Yeah. What about, that's true, that's true. I mean, absolutely. Like getting outside your comfort zone, trying new things is huge. It does so much for your confidence and self-esteem outside the gym. But what about what it does for you physiologically?
You overcame a goal.
No, like physiologically, meaning like bodily functions.
Oh, it's psychological, I know. You could perform something else or do something else when you're in need and in peril. You have another set skill.
Yeah.
You know, if you're on the ground and you know you're 90 years old, if you know how to do muscle up, you can grab onto something and
Yeah, that's fair. You might be
pull
able to do
yourself
that.
up.
Cool. Another thing it does, so looking back at the level 1, the muscle up, do you remember the 10 general physical skills?
Off the top of my head, no, but I can name a couple. They're like
Cardiovascular, respiratory endurance, stamina, power, strength, flexibility. Then there's speed, balance, accuracy, coordination, and agility. So those are the 10, right? And the number, out of those, do you remember what I just said?
I remember, yes, all 10.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking you to repeat it back, but which ones do you think the muscle up works on?
I don't know if it's say agility. I mean, it's somewhat speed because of the
So agility,
turn.
do you remember what agility means?
You're agile. You can move, quick bursts.
The way CrossFit defines it is your ability to switch tasks seamlessly. So like you go from doing one thing to doing the next thing as quickly as you can, right?
Yeah.
With as little lag or transition as possible. So that could be like we're doing a Metcon, like today we have like, I think, we have burpee box jumps and rope house. So you're doing a burpee box jump, boom, 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 boom. You hop on the rope, you start running. Get off the rope, boom, 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 right? It's not the speed or the endurance, that's a part of it, but it's like, you know, you're not like burpee box jump, you finish burpee box jumping, and then you like take your time and you're on the rower. It's like, you'd be able to switch into it fast. It's a very nuanced, I think, more CrossFit example. Like in the real world, agility can mean like change of direction. When I say real world, I mean outside of CrossFit. Like in
Those
sports,
people.
right? So it's like change of direction, right? So it's like I'm playing basketball and I'm guarding someone, and then all of a sudden we're going this way, right? That's agility too, right? Changing direction. So with the muscle up, there is some agility because you go from pulling to pushing, right? You go from hanging to sitting up and then to pressing up, right? So there is some agility, I would say. What other things do you think you use?
I would say speed was my next one.
Yeah, for sure. But you can probably do some slow tempo muscle ups, but you're really strong.
Power.
Power, yeah.
Obviously, yeah. Strength.
Overcome gravity, strength, yeah. What about coordination?
Yeah, you gotta be in sync with your movements.
Now, what about accuracy?
You can still do it even if like this. You can still get it done even if it's sloppy, I guess. So I don't know if you're talking about like a standard or like a movement standard, like how accurate you have to be to that standard. So I don't know if that one plays much into it.
Yeah, maybe. I think there's some degree of accuracy required because it's really easy to miss it. So, but yeah, you're right. You can muscle up if you're strong enough. Muscle up.
It's the term.
But anyways, so these three and this one and this one are different. So, gosh, my writing's horrible with this marker. But strength is an organic skill. So that means that it takes your body changing in order for it to. It takes your body changing physiologically in order for you to express more strength. I think technically strength is actually physiological and neurological. So those are the two differences. So one's like in the brain and one's in the body. And strength is actually a mix of both. Power is definitely a mix of both, right? And then these three right here, coordination, agility, and speed, are all neurological skills. So if the muscle up requires that, that's the health benefit to people, is like they have improved brain function, body awareness, right? Those are the reasons for it. Now, do most people need to be able to do that for life and death situation? Not necessarily. Like it's another tool in the toolkit, but for a lot of people, it might take more dedication and commitment than they're willing to sacrifice for their goals. So.
And I always try to apply it to like real life things like the squat. Why do I do it? Just to get off the mat. When you're older. I think the muscle up, I think of like them drowning or I'm gonna pull myself up from grabbing the bars or just if I'm not swimming somewhere. So
yeah. And that's not incorrect, and I agree, but there's going to be a lot of people who say it's not practical, right? They're going to say you're never going to do it in real life, and they might be right, because there's a lot of people that aren't leaving their homes and aren't going anywhere. But also, the argument for it is that there are more tools in your toolkit, right? So you have more options for movement, which is always a plus. So, in order to do a muscle up, what do you need to be able to do first?
You need to be able to do a ring row. So
Ring row for sure. Yeah.
Bottom.
That's probably base level.
Yeah. It's a pull up.
Pull up. Yep. And that's going to be a help level goal.
Pull up.
No, you don't need help.
A static hang. That's kind of like.
Yeah.
Pull up.
You do need to be able to hang on the rings. That's the other thing.
At least know how to go from like hollow to arch. So have.
Yeah, you need really good core control. That's really important.
No.
That's what I was looking for there.
And then, what about dips?
Yeah, dips. You gotta be able to do dip.
Yeah. So there's all these things you need to be able to do to do a muscle up. So if you need to be able, hi, how's it going? Welcome.
Welcome to the party.
So if you need to be able to do all of these things,